What advice would you give a pastor who is wanting to start a missions program at his church?
The advice I'd give to a pastor that wants to start a mission program in your church is this. Now, the good thing about me, being 48 years in the ministry, I can go back and see where I've made mistakes. And I have altered my philosophy over the years. When I first came, and here's the problem with a lot of churches, you don't get the right philosophy. And here's what you got to be real careful in choosing missionaries, is that you got to be real careful and very careful not to let your emotions get in the way. Because here's what will happen. Let's say you get hooked up with one mission group. That is, everything they do is home missions. Everything they do is the United States. Now, we know that's great. And they may have 100 missionaries doing similar things. So you got to discern on balance in your missionaries. Now, before I go in depth about that, let me give you the Bible, and then I want to share something with you. The Bible said in the book of Acts, is in verse number 8 of chapter 1, "But ye shall receive power after that the Holy Ghost has come upon you, and you shall be witnesses unto me both in Jerusalem," that's our local area, "in Judea," let's say that's our state, "Samaria," that's the United States, and then the uttermost part of the earth, that's the whole world. Okay, worldwide mission. Jesus told the disciples, "Go ye in all the world." Now, we're talking about our philosophy, how to pick missionaries, but before I go there, let me give you this. I think every one of you that's listening here need to get educated in faith promise missions and develop faith promise missions in your church before you can really go for missions full cycle. Now, our church says this: we have always tithed to missions. We tithe. Now this year, for example, we give over $340,000 to missions. That's over 15% of our budget. Now, we did that through Faith Promise, which was about half of that, and the rest of it came out of the general fund. But you got to establish how you're going to support these missionaries and get that burden to your people. Now, smaller churches, you got to understand this. You may have a limited budget. So you need to establish Faith Promise, then use Faith Promise as your way to build your mission program and build it upon how much money you get. If you get $10,000 a year, then you support missionaries for $10,000 a year. And I try to have this kind of balance. I'll have a portion of it for home missions, a portion of it for missions in West Virginia, a portion of it for the United States. But I have a big portion of it for the uttermost part of the world. Because let's just be honest with you. We got 335 million people in the United States, give or take some. But you got 7.2 billion people in the world. So common sense tells you that your mission program needs to be weighted toward the whole world. Now, how do I choose missions? I think we got to look at it from an economic side. Of course, we know a spiritual side, biblical side. The Holy Ghost ought to lead you to the missionary. But I want you to consider this, especially on your foreign missions. Consider having at least 60% of your foreign mission program to be the nationals. Nationals don't need as much money as an American that would go to that country. You are bypassing the language barrier. You're bypassing a lot of deputation. I'm not trying to get away from American missionaries, but the American missionaries that I support. You really need to, if you're going to choose a missionary, get a missionary that is a church planter, but not only a church planter, but he's also going to train nationals, train people. And he ought not to go to a country and pastor the church. He'll pastor it till it's strong enough to him to give to a national. Then that national will take the church, and then he'll go plant another one. But he also has to establish an education for him. So you can either, the missionaries you got to get is one has a similar philosophy to you, is to train people, to train missionaries, to embolden people to spread the gospel. So if I have a philosophy, establish you a good process of getting your money in to support them, then having that balance, remembering now, don't get too overbalanced on 335 million people when there's 7.2 billion people in the world, and try to have a more worldwide focus. And I personally believe that our missions ought to be more worldwide. That does not eliminate the American missionaries, but I'll be honest with you. When I first started, I was inundated with just people from America doing American missions and doing something in America, and they're all great. They're all great. But what happens is you get unbalanced in your mission program, and you really don't fulfill the Great Commission. And when you are choosing missionaries, here's how I do it. I get them from proven sources. I get them from people that I can trust that have recommended them to me. We got to depend on recommendations because I don't know who all goes to England. I don't know who all goes to Africa, but I do know some people that do know, and I'll glean from them, and I'll have several different mission boards or organizations that will help me, especially with these nationals. These nationals is you need to see, we're not going to be able to keep a national under our wraps. I mean, somebody's got to oversee them. So what I'll do is support organizations that do go over to their countries, follow up and disciple them and train them and see, make sure they're going in the right direction. So if I encompass this philosophy, get a foundation on how you're going to support them, and then get a philosophy on meeting all the goals. Your Jerusalem, but your Jerusalem ought to be supported by your tithe. Then Judea and Samaria, I usually use my tithe money in my state, but then the uttermost part of the earth, we try to use that faith promise money to reach that whole world. But please get involved in faith promise missions. If you'd like for me to help you, I'll help you in it. But let me give you a name. He's an older man. I don't know how many years Don Sis has left. But if you want somebody that can help you develop a faith promise mission, call Don Sisk. Or call me. I'll be glad to come to your office. I'll be glad to come to your church. Or if I don't come, I'm glad to send one of my staff people to help you to develop your financial structure and also a good philosophy to have a balanced mission program.